What's interesting is that intuition can start to tell a story, and you have to really listen to what that story is trying to tell you. And I think INTJs and ENFJs could really work well together with figuring out a story that their intuition is telling them. So, in other words, let's say a situation arises and they're both trying to decode that situation. They may come up with different conclusions about what's happening. Let's say a conflict, or they've created that there is a conflict somewhere with someone in their heads. So they may both interpret the situation differently, which could give the ENFJ, for example, some peace because they like harmony. They don't like conflict. And so they throw a solution out there, and then all of a sudden, the conflict starts to tell a new story. But it also is like a ricochet where it's actually confirming or retelling the original story and giving more depth and insight based on how the person reacts who is creating the possible conflict. So sometimes an ENFJ, for example, may feel like, okay, I'm going crazy because my intuition is going nuts and it's telling me this story. I don't like the story. I would love to change the story into something better because it's not logical, because why would someone behave in a certain way? And so both of their intuition can be correct. An INTJ can sometimes have the ability to kind of know something that's going to happen, especially if their intuition is really well developed. I think when feelings come into play, there is the potential that an ENFJ could be wrong. But then sometimes people will react in a certain way or try to cover their tracks or create a new story or convince you that that wasn't the story, when in fact the story that you thought it was really truly is the story. The person is just covering for themselves. And sometimes the ENFJ wants a sense of peace, and so they'll go with that, the new story, because it feels so much more settling. But I would say, yeah, don't throw it out so quickly, because there's probably some accuracy to that irritating, nagging intuition that's trying to tell you a story. So both of these types, the INTJ, they can also be very intuitive and put things together as well. But I think the INTJ also is objective because they have that thinking preference that's in the way. And so the ENFJ can get all tangled up in their feelings. The INTJ will come in and say, hey, look, handle the situation this way. So even if the INTJ isn't interpreting the situation as accurately as it actually is, even though they are capable, their solution may be really good for an ENFJ because they are more assertive and straightforward. And they might say, hey, you gotta take some risk here. You gotta risk getting your feelings hurt to step in and speak up for what you want, or say what it is that you're feeling. Be straightforward on some things. So an INTJ can guide an ENFJ out of that sort of black hole kind of feeling where the feelings are overtaking them sometimes when their introverted intuition is supercharged and super activated and going over and over and over, like something is up. It's like this thing telling them something is up. And I know it is, but I feel crazy because it's not really logical, or it feels a little dumb or whatever. So intuition can be a very powerful thing. Let's say that the ENFJ is dealing with a jerk and they are picking up on jerk behavior, jerk moves, all of that. And they are convinced that by somebody that, you know what, you're in your feelings too much. People don't act that way. That's not the norm. Let's say the INTJ says that's not the norm. No one would do the kind of things that you're saying that this person is doing. Now, you can't see everything that's behind the scenes. That's where intuition comes in. It starts to fill in pieces that you're missing. And so an INTJ might think, oh, you're filling in those pieces incorrectly. Just be cool or make amends, which depending on what it is. And, an INTJ can really stand up for themselves in probably any situation. So they may not have as deep of a conflict in this sense. They may not even dive into their intuition because they may feel it's unnecessary. Like, I'm just going to go straight forward through the situation. Whereas when the ENFJ's intuition is activated in this nagging way where their feelings are all also supercharged, they may try to go around the situation to handle it. But let's say that they decide, okay, let's just say I am creating the scenario and that everything really is good. And let's say they give the jerk a gift, like here's your birthday present or whatever. And then all of a sudden that triggers the jerk to behave in a different way to try to cover up for the fact that I'm trying to make you my enemy, but now you have just thrown me off. And so now I'm going to do something to try to correct the situation because I've already done something that is impossible to rectify because I wanted you to be my enemy. And so now something that you needed or wanted, I no longer have it because I wanted to make you an enemy. And because you have just been kind to me, I have to go a different route. The problem with that is that now the intuition is going to be activated again. So the ENFJ might have a sense of peace because, okay, well, at least I've quieted the conflict for a while, but then it starts to re-trigger. The intuition starts firing off again, and they start coming to the same conclusion for different reasons and being able to put together more pieces of the puzzle. And ENFJ can also react a certain way to also cover up for how they feel. Because who likes a jerk? Who likes a jerk? I think INTJs can handle jerks a lot, maybe easier than an ENFJ. I think an ENFJ would be quicker to fall to pieces a little bit or just crumble under that pressure and not want to deal with it. And an INTJ is going to just go straight through the conflict. Like, I'm just dealing with this straight up and I'll tell you how I feel, which could ensue in an argument. Could be really juicy and interesting to watch. Yeah, so it's interesting how the intuition is bounced off of the thinking preference and the feeling preference can really steer the intuition in an interesting way. Yeah, but definitely trust your gut. I've done several videos on that, on introverted intuition. Check those out. And definitely test your intuition. There's nothing wrong with that. Test it, test it, test it, especially in situations that are confusing. It is good for an ENFJ to get somebody with a thinking preference just to help them stabilize a little bit so that they don't fall to pieces over what their intuition is revealing. But the truth is, the intuition for an ENFJ is probably, unfortunately, correct. And by the way, if you're having some difficulty using your intuition to navigate why you're having trouble with love, definitely check out my book, Flip the Script on Love, on Amazon by Tamara Zyon. And I think it will help you navigate some murky waters through love so that you can have a stronger, healthier, and happier relationship.